Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about being heckled, which could otherwise be known as, being bullied or intimidated, and how that played out at a recent board meeting. And it's actually with regard to another homeowner here, not somebody that is on the board and not somebody who's in management, but it kind of also speaks to the feedback that you get on social media, on Facebook sometimes, the keyboard warriors. So I want to talk about this person because he has an important role in the community. When I say important, I mean it's what's really important. Everybody's replaceable, even the president of the United States. Something happens to a world leader, the next in command steps up. So we'll keep it in perspective. So he sits as a chair for the PHSS committee, the Public Health and Safety Committee for our community. And he has been very defensive of the matter regarding public safety and the investigation surrounding them and my efforts to let members know about it, which is very curious to me. And it's really been dumbfounding to me because I'm not sure why anyone wouldn't want to know the truth, especially when it comes to people in authority and people who can hand out fines and citations and people who carry firearms in our community. Like, why wouldn't you be supportive of an investigation? Not, the actual investigation, but be supportive of knowing what is going on and why they're being investigated. So this person has consistently been commenting in Facebook groups, basically like heckling me and saying things like, "What are you doing?" So at this board meeting on Saturday, I did a lot of talking at members' time. And members' time usually is less than a half an hour, but there were many, many people who were there, which was wonderful. We had probably 30 extra people online and like 10 or 15 people in the room that normally might not be there. So it was really wonderful to see that. And he usually attends in person because he reports out as a chair committee. So at this meeting, he was standing in a back corner. And when I was done with members' time, I kind of had it. And I was like, I'm done with just hearing them lie or just not say anything meaningful or responsive to us. So I was like, I'm out of here. So I got up and went to the door. And this man pretty much accosted me and said, "Well, why don't you run? Why don't you run? Why don't you do something? Why don't you run?" And I said, "Okay, maybe I will, but the election is not until this summer. You can file to be a candidate for the board around Memorial Day weekend. It's always like around that time period, late in May, where you have to submit your papers to become a candidate for the board. And then the election is in July." So he, number one, was basically saying that over and over. I want to say it was like harassing me, like that I need to run. So I said, "Okay, I maybe I will run, but I also want you to be aware that I have a job, I have a home, I have a son, I have a life, I have a side business." Like, and so he looked and he said, "Don't make excuses." Now, this is like a man who is like in his 60s or maybe older, certainly older than me, who's basically hassling me. And he starts saying, "Don't make excuses, don't make excuses." And I said, "I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you that I actually have a very busy life." But the insinuation and the message that he is sending to me is that I need to be doing something more if I'm going to complain. So that's the issue here. The message is, I'm not doing enough. Now, I could stand outside and do a headstand in the middle of the street and yell out, "Pay attention, pay attention." I can't get people to care more than they already do. I'm very vocal in the community groups on Facebook. People don't care. They think I'm annoying. They don't want to know what's going on. I say, block me and keep scrolling if you don't want to know what's going on. Like, it's Facebook. It's ridiculous. So people have their ways to control and manage their own life. If you don't want to see my face or hear me or see my posts, then unfollow, block, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. And yet they still watch and they complain because that's what people want to do. So this person suggests that I need to get even more involved and run for the board. Now, I've told you in other videos, the board meetings are like 5 hours once a month on a Saturday. Plus, there are like 9 committees, which I think they removed the elections committee. So there's 8 standing committees. Those committees can meet for once a month up to 2 hours. And then if that's not enough, they also have subcommittees and ad hoc committees. So a board member, director needs to attend those as a liaison. So it's a huge commitment to become a director on the board, number one. And number two, it's just a lot of responsibility. And when you have a lot of other responsibilities, you can't give it your full time and attention. And so that's why it's mostly retirees and people who have more time on their hands that they can dedicate to this community. So I found it offensive, and I just find his behavior online to me and now in person to just be that of someone who's heckling me and suggesting that you can't discuss something that is important to you as a human, as a woman who's raising a son who wants, our public safety department to be people of good character and morals and conscience for how they interact and behave around our community. I want my son to grow up to be a good man. I don't want these people to be modeling that type of behavior in the community. So who is this person to tell me that I have to do more, to tell me that I have to take up even more? I'm doing a YouTube channel now where I'm trying to get information out because, like I've said, I'm a social worker by nature and I like to communicate and I like to discuss issues. So this is my community service. And if you like it, great. Subscribe, comment, and like my videos if you can. But I'm not sure that I need to be bullied by an older man in this community who thinks that if I want to talk about issues, then I need to do even more and go volunteer to, give up like 25 hours a month to this community. Why shouldn't I be able to have a place in this world, in this community, to talk about things that are important to me, to get people to think about what might be issues that should concern them? And why should I have to worry about going around the community and to be heckled like that? Not that I want him to run for the board, because I don't think that he has compassion or empathy or awareness of the issues. And I'm concerned about why he isn't more concerned himself about what's going on with the public safety investigation. So I don't want him to run. But, it begs the question of why doesn't he do more? What is he doing to help this community? Yes, he's chairing the PHSS committee. Anybody could do that. And frankly, I don't like what I've seen. When we had the lighting issue, which I've discussed in another video, he and another gentleman, homeowner, came to the meeting for guest input. And I was across the table and this person was chairing the committee, and there was a man who was kind of behind him. And the man went to say something and he literally said, "Shush, hold your tongue." I was like, first of all, who speaks like that? I mean, that's something that you probably heard in school in like 1960 or something. But he literally told another grown man around his age to hold his tongue. And I was appalled by that behavior. So this is a man who's very performative and theatrical and likes to think of himself as a good presenter because he presents on a lot of issues regarding fire safety. But even if you're doing good service like that around the community, how you treat people is what's most important, at least to me. And I don't like how he treats people, like that man who was there as a guest at the meeting. I don't like when people are told to hold their tongue. And I do not appreciate him trying to harass me just because I want to ask questions. So, what do you think about people who try to shut you down and control you? And why is he doing that? Is more of my concern. Why is he so concerned about me talking? So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you.